Hey, this is Scott. So I've been working on a hackathon over the weekend. Um, a team of one developer, of me, and obviously we have a couple of other people associated as well. So, it's been an interesting learning process about what the government's doing and how this is all going to work. I just want to go over the solution that we've come up with. So first of all, way too many windows open. What we've developed is a widget process. So the idea here is that it can be, it's just a small script and it can be deployed to kind of any website. And the idea is that, SBA can be represented as the core brand and it's going to bring in the trust from these other vendors, really just trying to standardize the application process and have a single entry point. The process is pretty simple. Start your registration, get your authentication code. You tell us about your company, what's going on. Then there's a whole bunch of information. So there's three types of loan. There's a payroll loan, there's the debt recovery loan, and there's the disaster relief loan. So we have to ask all these extra questions to gather some information about the business, number of employees, estimated monthly payroll, and things like that, just to work out if you're going to be eligible and what you're eligible for. Then we move on, try to work out who's applying. Of course, many people could apply for one company. SSN, EIN, so even though there's no real criteria for these, the chances are that there's going to be some fraud detection. So they're going to be using SSNs and EINs for tracking and fraud. Moving on, get the pleasure of connecting to your bank account via a tool called Plaid. So it just simple pops up. You can go through and sign up, choose your bank, sign up. Then we have access to your data. Moving on, upload tax return. So some people are going to be using the tax return as a good estimate of what your income was historically. And we move on to the next one, agreeing to legals, blah, blah, blah. There's the three programs you can apply or not apply. And then, approve, process, boom, process. Go. At this point, it's going to start executing some workflows and uploading some documents as well. So that's the front end side. So let's talk about the back end side. So the back end side, we split the system into a variety of tools. So first of all, pre-qualifying. So the idea here is this is a partially completed workflow. We got the workflow. We come in and, first thing in, boom, we hit this event. What's going to happen? Will the applicant finish making the process, or are they going to abandon it? So here the idea is that, if they finish, okay, cool, we're going to perform our next calculations. Otherwise, we're just going to wait 30 minutes. We're going to email continuation instructions and then go on. So here we're going to perform some calculations. So the beauty is the SBA provide us a calculation of what is a small business. There's a certain start date that they need to comply with, and then okay, boom, they don't qualify, so we record it. And in this case, we'd probably escalate this to another process. So we'll follow through with, hey, you don't qualify, and contact the SBA for more information, blah blah blah. So here we break it into categories. So this border is just to help me organize the information. So right now, we're expecting more and more filters. So at this stage, the government hasn't really indicated too much about what's going on. So we're just pretty much saying, well, everyone is eligible, but that's just not going to be the reality of the situation. So why this is grouped here is because we're going to have a series of workflows, boom, 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 filter out people. So they're not wasting time, they're not talking to banks or things like that when they're not even going to be eligible for it. So this is for the economic injury disaster loan. The second one is the PPP loan, basically payroll loan. Once again, we're expecting a lot of limitations, so this workflow will be executed. Here we can see has an SBA loan, because the only people can apply for debt relief already have SBA loans. So this little thing that's happening here is that all these three areas are being processed simultaneous. So this can be either distributed or on a single computer. So we're really trying to get that efficiency. Come back, create the offer, and boom, they have the offer. So this will be some preliminary calculations. We know that the PP loan is 2.5 of the average payment of the monthly payroll. Debt relief is on any loans that you currently have for 6 months. And this one is just a general grant. It's actually two put together. It's like a loan, and then you can apply for the grant straight after, but you need to wait 3 days. So not quite straight after. And then we obviously provide the offering. So in this case, we're just running a service task, which is going to save that, and then that's going to end that workflow. So the choice of this workflow is really, we're going to add a lot more filters. So as more information comes out from the government, keep adapting and evolving this workflow. So let's go to the onboarding quickly. This onboarding is a lot more complex. Got some very cool things here. Same kind of thing here. We wait for an event. So do they complete the application, or 1 hour, something's happened, they've decided to not continue for whatever reason, and we just want to handle that case. So that case is very important. It could be an error in the system, could be internet go down, many situations. So sometimes there's a human involvement. The objective here is that we don't get any humans involved in this process, because with the SBA, timing is going to be critical. Once the application is complete, this is an event. So the widget that you just saw is going to fire off event. Boom. This is going to say, okay, application is complete, move on. All right. So what's happening here? Well, a whole bunch of little things. So in parallel, we come here, we have all the data, and we're going to do a whole bunch of checks in parallel. So we're going to start pulling data from Plaid. So we connect to the bank account, we pull that data, boom, we have the data now. Next stage, we're going to submit to a company called Oculus, which just basically provide a summary on the data. So they just provide a standard way and the calculations that can be used in the future. Once that's finished, it's an asynchronous call, so we have to send the information to them. They may take up to an hour to process, and then once they're complete, they send us a signal, a webhook in this case, which signals that the event is complete. And then it joins on my parallel gateway. We have the same up here. Has tax return? Yes. Okay, cool. Let's process again. Once again, this is come back with a financial summary, and you can see there's a way. If it doesn't, okay, we just ignore that and we combine the parallel gateway. So what have I done here? Okay, so these are little links. This is basically so I don't have to draw lots of messy lines. So here we capture this link. We have a human process to manage. Hey, is this really a failure? Do we need to start the process again? What's actually happened? And then we completely terminate the whole thing. So let's look at what's happening here. Running personal credit. There is no limit here, just putting a limit. But in general, we'll see if there's going to be a limit or not. Next one is the KYC and AML, which is called Know Your Customer, and money laundering. So we got to check, boom, are they money laundering, or who do they know? So this is just the first check of fraud and verification of good standing. So if it's fraud, and then we go into more depth details. So we're going to pull a whole bunch of information. Let's come back with a Secretary of State, OFAC, industry information, bankruptcies, UCC, blah, 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 blah. So, that's either going to be marked as a failure because they failed to comply, they're bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole bunch of exceptions which are not clear yet, but we know that the funders and the banks are not going to touch someone that's bankrupt. Maybe they will, but these rules will evolve. So these gateways are going to be very, very important. They're just going to terminate. But the fact is, the information is there to make that decision. This all comes together, joins, and now we calculate the funder workflow. What is a funder workflow? In this case, it's selecting banks and institutes, and we'll find out very soon who they're going to be, that can actually perform the funding. So this will create a list of funders. So the idea is we're going to have 3 lists coming out. What are the funders that support PPP? That's the payroll, the debt relief for the SBA loans, and the EIDL, which is your emergency funding. So these things can happen in parallel. Why? Because from the documentations that we've read, that these things are allowed to be applied. They all work kind of independent of each other, but you cannot use certain funds to use for payroll. The payroll funds have to be for payroll, and the debt relief has to be for something else, and the small business debt relief has to be for supporting your current loan, and EIDL is for other stuff, for infrastructure stuff. You can read into that yourself. I won't get into that. So what we're doing here, we have a nice sequential flow. So the idea is that this information is coming in a priority stack. We are speculating that the funders and the banks, some are going to specialize in certain industries, others are going to do other activities. Everyone's going to have their little thing. That's my guess, because that's how the industry works now, and they want to be able to do their due diligence and their underwriting in an industry they know and that they can do quickly, that they're already prepared for. So here we're going to just do a few things. We're going to, in this parallel gateway, go through the payroll calculations, and here we're basically sending it to a funder, waiting for a response, accept or not. If not, okay, we move to the next one. And then finally, we're going to get a guarantor ID, and that's going to move on. So pretty much the same process for all these three. Next is we're going to wait for 3 days, because actually the debt relief program needs to start another application process. So we'll send a signal off to say, hey, 3 days has passed, time to start the next process here. And that's the end of it. And that's really the majority of it. There's something about distribution, which is collecting funds and receiving funds, but there's not too much here. It's less intense. This is just about fraud checking, going through a process of, hey, is a contract signed, potentially using Visa virtual accounts for distributing the funds. As the funds go out, checking that they're not getting funds from other sources. So this example is, if one bank funds you for a PPP loan, another bank will not fund you for the same PPP loan. So we decided to use this workflow engine because of the complexity and because it can be evolved so quickly, adding new APIs, removing the APIs, changing the direction of the workflow is very powerful. And they can hook into other workflows. So you can see we have fraud processes and things that we can kind of add into this. And this is all executable, as mentioned. Like everything here, each of these little boxes, service boxes, represents let's call it a unique service activity. So it's a single unit of work, which is going to go off and do something. And it's been modeled for this for many reasons. Of course, it's easy to change the flow, the required inputs and outputs are known, but another thing is scale. So as we have the workflow being executed, we can distribute this. So if it's necessary, we can look at a cloud solution or another mass execution engine. So we're not just overloading a single server here. We can easily break it up, but we're not breaking it up by whole project. We're actually breaking it up by single services in this model. So that is the solution. You know, as I said, we only had 2 days to do this. I started very late because I wasn't aware of it. And then, you know, it's been a great solution, you know, for a dev team of one and just a couple other people supporting me here. You know, it's worked out really well, and I think it's a great illustration of the power of BPMN and using a workflow approach to development. So some of these APIs are implemented, some are not. We can replace these with human tasks, why they're being implemented, and we can feed them back to the service tasks over time. So that's the roadmap and the vision here. So we'll see how everyone else thinks about it, and you know, get feedback if this is like a very good solution or what other people think. So thanks for that. I just wanted to show you some practical example of taking a BPM approach to both the business side and to the software side to follow up on my last video.